Okay, if you are here, if you are here, my name is Levi. Um, Let me see if I can add my camera here. Uh, so I'll just add. Hmm. Okay, so if you are here, welcome, welcome. So I have been working on something. Thank you, Peter. I can see. Um, Welcome, and I've been working on something for some time now. It is called ZAS-PHP, originally coming from the Zwanan API specification. And what the specification is about how to arrange files. It's mainly about files arrangement in an API system that is actually not built using a framework. Most of these big companies have their own internal frameworks, or and you know, it is off-the-shelf systems that use most of the external or the big frameworks like Laravel, Adonis JS, etc. So I wanted to build something that won't be Laravel, that is not running on MVC, that is free. You know, is actually not. It doesn't impose any kind of structure of, or not really structure, because it does impose structure, but rather you write everything from scratch. It's like you write your own code. Um, and so it's hard, because if there is memory leak, it's hard for there to be memory leak, because if there is memory leak, then it is your code. You were the one who wrote it. It's not like maybe you have Laravel that when you make a request, it boots up a container that takes memory and loads some dependencies that probably the request might not even need to have a response. um, and so you tend to have a very high or huge memory footprint. I'm not saying Laravel is not good for all of us, like Laravel, because I'm a PHP developer as well as JavaScript. So I wanted to build something that is more of how your files should be arranged, um, and it's not container based, you know. So that's how I came up with the specification called actor supporter. So I'm going to show you that, so that you see what that specification is about. So we right here, and I will take you to firstly the Medium post that mainly looked at the the specification. And the main thing is how you should name your files. For example, all directory names should be lowercase, and they should be separated by some file separator, either underscore or dashes. Basically, you are the one who decide this in the SAS configuration, but I'm going to show you that. And the main reason this is the case is because uh, with this, it's easier for developers to quickly know what is happening when they open their code editor. So when you see an interface, you actually know it is an interface. If you look at, for example, the way extensions should be, you know, currently it's very difficult to tell whether this use of the PHP is an interface or it is a class, right? But with this extension, you can tell that okay, we are dealing with a class, or we are dealing with an interface, or we are dealing with a trait. And to even make things secure, your organization can choose whatsoever extension they want classes to be, so that if you have a lot of files open, you already know which one is a class and which one is an abstract class or a trait, etc. And there's the same thing for file names. For example, this is a class called product category, and this is how the file name will be. So you can already see the cleanliness when it comes to the way files will look. And there are some terminologies in the whole specification. I wrote it on Medium. You can look at it. Like a process consists of one or more or many files, yeah, that perform a common function. And a side effect can be, you know, this file execute and generate an output, so that file has a side effect. Connecting to external services, that is, you know, a side effect. So it actually will use terms like process and side effect throughout the whole documentation. But that's not the main thing I came here for. If you look at the part of of the side effect and this process, it really is reflected in the structure of the system. Things like setup, we will say it is a process. This user down here is a process, for example. So I am going to talk about them, but mainly I don't want to talk about this specification. Rather, I want to talk about the actual environment that we call ZAS-Env, ZAS environment. It helps you to write code that actually follow this particular structure. So the main thing about ZAS, it says that there are two types of files: supporters and actors. Supporters won't have a direct side effect in the system. For example, this is where your classes, you know, your classes are defined, your interfaces, your traits, your database configurations, routes, for example. These ones do not have direct. They may have a side effect. Remember, I told you what a side effect is. They may have a side effect, but if you execute a class file, it doesn't have any side effect, rather than just putting something in the memory. Now, actors, on the other hand, they are the ones that act on behalf of the user. So if I can take you back to GitHub, that's where I actually have the GitHub version of this, and we have the picture down here. Yeah, this picture I think is the clearest I have so far. So you can see that, okay, every HTTP request must go to an actor. That's the first thing. So you see security is supported from the very beginning. So you don't no one's gonna be accessing configuration files, some root files, or something that is in the supporter. So supporters should not be accessed directly. That is the rule. And then these boxes you are seeing here, they are processes. For example, setup is a process, authenticator is a process. And if you look at it, if you read the documentation, it will tell you the smaller processes down here will always include the processes above them. So if you have an authenticator here, this authenticator will probably only set the state of the request. So if that request is going to the background actors, then the specific setup will know how to deal with that particular authenticated state. Yeah, and I will give you an example of that. So also on this side, if you look at the foreground, again, there are different setup files and processes down here. So HTTP requests only go to the foreground. The foreground means these files that are at the front. They are the ones that users actually interact with to perform an action on the server. Background actors, on the other hand, are supposed to run in the background. Things like files that are initiated by a cron job, and files that are actually initiated by foreground but not directly by HTTP request. So let's say you have M-Pesa request, or maybe some payment request, and you need some file in the background to check that particular payment. You know, you literally want to deploy that particular file. You want to deploy that file using a foreground actor. However, you don't want that file to be deployed by some HTTP request initiation. So that is mainly the Zwana API structure. That's basically how files should be arranged. And you can see here the arrow says only CLI requests and responses should be allowed back and forth. And that is all for this particular structure. If you want to understand more about it, then you can actually check the Medium post, which will take you approximately 6 minutes to read, or you can look at the structure here again that I put in this particular README. Okay, not to talk too much about the specification itself, let's talk about the tool. So it's called ZAS-Env, meaning ZAS environment. It is the one that helps people to use this particular tool. And so let's go to the documentation. This is where we are going to start everything from. Okay. At this point, I think you can. Yeah, basically that is it. That is it for the specification itself. Now let's go to the tool, the ZAS tool. So notice that this thing, when a request is made to a particular file in the background, you only require the resources necessary to respond to that particular request. You know, you don't boot up a whole container, and maybe some dependencies that you boot up won't even be used during the execution or the generation of a response to that particular request. And with that said, let me start to demonstrate this. I've already done a little bit of documentation. Back to the browser, I've done a little bit of documentation, and we will be looking at how to set up to create a ZAS project. You can use Composer create project, leave as one on ZAS-Env and project name. So let me try to do that. So we have this folder. Let me go to the browser, to the text editor or VS Code. So we are going to use the terminal here. I'm hoping that you can see. I like to use light mode during the day and night mode during the night, when just for my eyes. So Composer create project, Levi's one ZAS, then environment, and we want to call this project a test project. So just for testing how this particular ZAS environment works, and I will show you a current system we have that is actually based on this ZAS env. Some of them are based on Laravel, some of them are based on ZAS env, and the reason we tend to use ZAS env is when we have a very constrained server that is constrained on memory. So when it is constrained on memory, then we only want to have very light, we want the system to be light as possible. That is, when a request comes, it should only require the resources it needs, as compared to putting up a whole container like the way it happens in Laravel. So that is it here, and let's create this project. Okay. Yeah. So we have created the test project. It should be somewhere here. There it is. So I'm now going to open that particular folder so that we work from there. Let me open the test folder and let's start doing things. Great. So as you can see, this is everything. I have already written the autoloader for you, the class that is responsible to do auto loading. And this is the ZAS tool here. This is the tool that we are going to be using to do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to creating files and naming them. And you can see there is actor and there is supporters. And the master setup, again, I told you setups are processes. So there is the master setup here. This is the one that is required to initialize the whole system and load the autoloader. Now, the autoloader itself will do vendor autoloading. So in case you have other packages that you use from Composer, they will be automatically auto-loaded, so you don't have to worry about that. Great. Good news so far. Good news so far. I hope everything is going on well. Okay, so let's start. I will also show you some things that you can do with this that you probably didn't know about. And you know, people don't like to write everything from scratch. That's true. But most of the time when you write things from scratch, you get to have you can optimize it. The optimization is in your own hand, and most of the time you don't. If you have a certain constraint merely on resources, then you really want to write most of the things from scratch. So this is the autoloader and blah 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 blah. And what we're going to do here is just going to show the basic things that this particular command line tool can help you do. So the first thing, we know that every request has to go to actors and it must go to the foreground folder. So every actor should be in this foreground. Backgrounds should have files that should run in the background, not in the foreground. Great. Now with this in mind, we will be going back and forth to see the commands that we have. Firstly, I didn't put too much time on formatting how the console appear. So if you want to see help, you just do PHP ZAS help. And I really wanted to make the commands not cryptic, you know, PHP ZAS : help, or PHP ZAS, then you do : blah blah blah. You know, those things, I think they are cryptic. So I just wanted it to be like a sentence that people can be able to even infer what the command would be. So PHP ZAS help will give you a list of commands that are currently supported. We have the maker, to make class, abstract class, trait, constants, interfaces. And constants, this one was just developed by me, that it is supposed to hold only constants, not methods or anything, just constants. I wanted to use enum, but at the time, enums were supported by PHP 8 and above, so that's how I ended up with constants. And again, I will ask if you can contribute to this. You should. And these are the options, right? So PHP ZAS make something. Now this container represents other class, abstract, trait, interface, constant, or actor, etc. Then the name of the file you want to make, should we overwrite it or not in case it exists? And then there are other options. So these options now are the ones we are going to be dealing with. This thing does not quite say a lot about what is happening here. So the documentation is here in the wiki. So let's forget about all of this and look at the commands. But before we start, it's better to look at the main file, the configuration file. So the configuration file is almost everything here, and it kind of requires some manual work. This is the root directory of your project. This is the name of the supporters folder. So you see, you can actually rename the supporters folder, and that will still work. You give it any name that you want. You give the actors any name that you want, because most of the time people get to learn these frameworks, or mind is not a framework, but then they get to know the structure and try to find vulnerabilities, right? Like if you look at WordPress, you'll see people know WP admin and things like that. So if you don't want people to know that things are in some folder, you can just change the name. But the thing is, we know that every request, every HTTP request must go in the actors foreground folder. So that's the main place we should be concerned about. So actors have two, foreground and background. These are their names. Then the extensions. So when a class is created, it's going to have .class.php extension. When an abstract class is created, it will have abstract.php. Interface will have ifc.php. Traits will have trait.php. Constant class will have constants.php. Includes will have inc.php. Configs will have config.php. Foreground and background will just have PHP extension. And then these ones are templates. So when I make a file, we take the templates from there and use that to create the boilerplate code. These ones you don't want to touch them, but you can touch them if you want. And these are just specific paths where we can find where the folders will be placed or the new files will be placed. We know that classes will be placed in here. Abstract classes will be placed in here. Interfaces will be placed here, etc. Now these ones are for auto loading, and if you are cryptic enough, then you can look at it. We are just saying an abstract class should start with the name abstract and followed by any other word. An interface should have the name, but then should have interface at the end of it. Control Z should have interface at the end of it. So if it is name, it should be name interface, not just name. Again, we want to make it easier to read and to be able to understand the system quickly. The same thing for traits. Traits should have trait at the end. So you should have, if it is working trait, you should have working trait instead of working, right? So that will be the name. However, the file name itself will be working.trait, etc. The same thing for constants. Then the file name separator, initially I told you can use anything here. For me, I like using dash because it's clean. And then the setup file, again, this setup file is the file that literally includes the master setup file. So master setup file is the one that does the auto loading, etc. You can clearly see that this thing is not wrapped in a container that you have to boot the container. It's more of the normal way we create PHP applications without using maybe some routers, etc. We just use the default routing, but we know that has a security vulnerability, and I will show you another way. For me, I was able to handle that using the same ZAS. Okay. Now with that said, we have talked about the config file. So if you want to change anything, make sure you change it here. With that said, let's get into our first command. So back to the browser, we go into the maker commands. Yeah, so if we want to make an abstract class, this is the command. It looks complicated, but it's not at all. Let me just show you that. So I'm going to get to create a hypothetical system. Let me just say it's what's the name? Hypothetical, right? Okay, so let's say I just want to create a system that has so many different parts that we can just use, right? It's not going to be a system that fully makes sense, but let's say we want to create a book API, right? We want to create a book API. Notice that you have the env here. The env has absolutely nothing. It's up to you to determine what you want to have in your environment, and it's also up to you to load that particular environment. So if you have, let's say, if you have some things in your env file, which of course you should have, mainly configurations that are sensitive, you can use vlookups.env. That will actually load that for you. I mean, it will load the env for you. But again, I told you ZAS really doesn't give you anything from the ground up. You choose what you want. You choose what works for you. At some point, I even wrote my own env loader, and my env structure was kind of different, right? So again, it's up to you based on what you see fit. Great. With that said, let me go back to the code and let's pick it up from there. So do we need anything in our environment? I'm thinking if we really do need something in our environment. For now, let's just keep it like that and let's just start making things, right? So for our case, we're going to say we know that I'm thinking about a system that will have every, component of this particular command line to test it. Okay, so I'm just going to make, firstly, let's start with an abstract class, or not really an abstract class. Let's say we can do something to to do with an interface, and this interface says that anything that is, maybe a module, for example, should be saved, right? Should have the save method. That is, our books, we should be able to save them. So we are going to make an interface. To make an interface, you just do PHP ZAS, and you can decide to put the namespace if you want. If you don't put the namespace, then we will be dealing with the root namespace, and most of the time we don't want that. So we're going to have PHP ZAS make. We are making an interface, and then what's the name of the interface? The name of the interface should be, let's see, database. Okay, or module, but it's for a database, yeah. So it's like a database module, meaning this module can be saved. So to do that, we are going to put this interface in a namespace called maybe database, something like that, which doesn't really make sense. We can't have database. Okay, we just put it in the common namespace. You don't have to put it in any namespace, by the way. I just want to put it in the common namespace, and we're gonna call it db module. So this is it, and I will continue showing you as we go on. Let me just start from here first. So great, we have made db module, and you can see it here. So this is it. Now all of these came from the template that I told you, and there's a comment here that says things that have hash followed by some character are required for code insertion. So if we need to insert another namespace here, this thing will be used. So you don't want to delete such things. So we want to have our public db module interface that is, it can persist. Maybe we'll call the method persist, right? That means this thing can be saved, isn't it? It can be saved. So it's a public function, right? Public function persist can be saved. That is it. So okay, now we have something that can be saved. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, we know we can have this is me just giving you systems that won't really be defined that way. I'm just defining them as we go. So we want to have our book API, but we know we can have articles, we can have books themselves, we can have journals, right? So can we collectively put these things together? If we put them together, what are their general behavior? We know that they have number of pages. Everyone have like the way the pages look. I don't really know, but we know that each of them have pages, and each of them have name. But then some of them have different, yeah. Just assume they are kind of different in some way, and yet they are called we say they are something that has writing, right? Something that has writing. Can we say book? Or should we not say book? We should say info holder, information holder, maybe. Maybe when I'm thinking about these things, I should be showing my camera so that you can know exactly what I'm thinking about here. So I probably would just call them. How can we call them? They are okay. They have pages, yeah. They have writings. I can give. Can we say write? Okay, not writable. You know, we can't say book because not everything is a book. You know what? We're just gonna call it book. I cannot sit here and think about this thing. So now, since we know we are going to call it book, we are going to just create an abstract book. Do we really need an abstract book? Um, because there is the concrete book that is original, that has specific behavior, but then there are other things like journal. So we'll say those ones they extend the abstract book, but then the abstract book implements um, the DB module interface. However, do I really? I actually want to show something. So don't I don't have to implement the DB module interface, isn't it? Okay, let's just make some domain class. We're gonna call it info holder abstract class. So PHP ZAS make abstract um, make abstract. Should we say book? Make abstract what? Mm, okay. Okay, we're just gonna call it book. It's fine. Make abstract book. Does it implement this module? Every book can be saved. So we're gonna say T, right? PHP has make abstract book, and the not T. T stands for trait. So interface. So dash I. It has an interface. It implements this interface called common DB module. So notice you don't have to put DB module interface at the back of it. We already know that when we say interface, that's what we're talking about. So good. So it's gonna make an abstract class called book, and here it is. So you can see it's named abstract book because of the configuration in the now notice something in the what's the name, the ZAS config. You see it actually put the persist function here. Why? Because it checked the interface. You see how these things are named, right? So every camel case is separated by dash, and everything changed to lowercase. So this is easier to read as compared to having db module.php and you don't really know whether it's an interface or not. So we know that db module.ifc had this function that must be implemented, which is persist, and the book abstract, the abstract book class has, the system put that, or ZAS actually put that function here, thinking that you are going to implement it. But in fact, we are not going to implement it here. We are going to leave it, and we're going to call it abstract public function. So abstract public function persist must be implemented by every other class that will inherit from abstract book. So we know abstract book has, I like to name my things up here before traits. So abstract book have, wait, give me a minute, you understand? There is something I like to do, which is not, I don't like setters and getters. So I'm going to create, so let me do CLS, clear that. This is the start of the show. So we do PHP ZAS make, we want to make this abstract book again. Let's do the same thing and then see what I'm talking about. Although we implemented the common module interface, the DB module interface, but we want a trait. Now this trait is not here, but then it is going to make this particular trait before it includes it. So you use -t to make a trait. So we want a trait called common, and I want it to be called feud to property. Feud to property. Feud to property. This is a trait, right? Great. So now the reason it didn't work on this is because I didn't put --f here. There we go. Great. So the --f is supposed to overwrite. Now, if you look here, there is some problem with this place. There is an indentation happening. I will work on that to make sure it's not there. But you can see it automatically put the feud to property trait here, and it has created that feud to property trait in the traits folder. You can see common feud to property.trait.php. So that is the feud to property trait, and we want to have one method here, which is public function underscore call. So if we call something that is not there, we want to argument arguments, and firstly let's just check if this thing is set. This is PH from PHP 8, so we will say is set this name. So you know that this function will be called if there is, maybe you call some function on the object, and that function, that particular function does not exist in the class. So PHP will automatically call this magic method and pass the name of the function and the arguments that was given to it, and then we can use that to our advantage. So it is set this name, or if it is not set, we need to throw an exception. Throw new, let's just say runtime exception, something else set, right? The name is not found. Really, we shouldn't even say runtime exception. Let's say bad method call, right? That one would be better. That would be better. Then, yeah, bad method call exception. Then I'm not using this runtime exception anymore. So let me just remove it from here. So public function, let's go call name arguments. Then we will check if empty. That means if the person didn't pass any arguments, then that they are that is a get call. Yeah, it's a get. So we are going to return this. What are we returning? Name. So else we are going to set the name. Say this name is equal to, I'm just going to say arguments are 0. This is not very sophisticated, but let's just do something. And we are going to return this. Great. Now that's the field to property trait. Good. Now we have the field to property trait. CLS. That means if we come to abstract book, every field we are going to put here will be a getter and setter by itself. So we're going to say we know that these things have name, public, name. Okay, let me just keep them separate for the sake of. Then every book has some. I'm thinking about. Let's just say we're gonna say serial number. Yeah, I don't know. There's no serial number, but let's just say serial number. Great. That's all. This is totally basic. Yeah. So when you create a book, and then now we're gonna have ID, because this thing has to be saved to the database. So we'll say public ID. And what else? Really, we don't care about the rest of the things. So looking at this, you can already see how you can make your own model, right? That looks like eloquent and things like that. So our constructor will basically say ID is 0, right? ID is equal to 0. That's what we have in our constructor, our default constructor. If ID is 0, we just exit. If empty, right? If empty ID, we just return. There's nothing here. Else, if it is not empty, then we want to do something cool. We want to load. So we are expecting everyone or every method that implements, or every object that implements this particular abstract class, to have their own load function. So meaning how can we load this thing from the database? So we're going to create abstract public function load, and this takes in an ID, loaded from the database. Great. So we just say this loads the ID. And now this is the cool thing about the field to property trait. This is how I can set the ID. This ID, if I just do like this and pass in the new ID, this will work. This is what I'm talking about. So if I do this ID, then this will return the ID. It will return the ID value. But if I pass a value here, then it's going to set the ID value. So I don't need getter and setters to come make my code dirty. Great. Now that this is just something simple, we already have an abstract book that implements the DB module interface. Perfect. Now that we do that, let's have our book class itself. So we're going to say PHP ZAS make class book, and this book has a parent, abstract book. And abstract book is not in any namespace. That's the cool thing about it. So we're going to say make class book, and it has a parent abstract book. Yeah, now that's one thing. If you want this thing to automatically find and check in the abstract folder for abstract book, you must put the abstract at the beginning of the name. For other things like traits and interface, like the way we did, you don't have to put it at the end of the name, right? So since it is an abstract class, you want it here. Great. So PHP ZAS make class book -p. Then let's just do something very simple. We're gonna say permanence. Can we disable, enable what? Delete, right? And finally delete, and finally maybe persist, should we say? So every function can, I need to show you what I'm thinking about right now, right? So every function, not every function, every object that can be saved to the database will actually have their own, it's easier to save them. But I think save should be, okay, that's the persist method, we don't need to have it. But we need to have delete, because delete does not require anything specific. We need to have enable, we are just assuming that we'll just change the value of a single field that is consistent. Then we need to have maybe, let's say, disable again, yeah. So enable, disable, delete will be in the persistence trait. Then persist, every object has its own way of persisting, right? So we don't have to implement that one. So let me go back there. Great. So we say we want to have a new trait called T. It's going to be common / persistence. I don't know how to spell persistence trait. It's not persistence, it's permanence. PRMANENCE. Yeah, this thing is permanent, right? Let's just call it permanent trait. Great. With that said, it's going to be a simple system. Great. We have this book class that's been made. You see, it actually has these methods that it's supposed to implement, persist and load, from the abstract book class. So they are here by default, and then finally we have the permanent trait. So let's go to the permanent trait. So what do we have in there? We know we have some functions. Public delete. So delete, before some things get deleted, we want to carry on certain function or maybe certain action. So what I usually do for me is I pass some callback to this particular delete function, which is like, yeah, just a callback function, yeah. So we'll say pass a function that's going to be I'm going to call it deletable. So it's a closure or callable deletable, and then the arguments to pass to that particular function. And public, I don't know why I always forget about this function keyword. Yep, good. So let's give this thing a default value, right? I'm going to say it's equal to a function that takes in some args, let's say, and it returns true, right? Return true. Perfect. So by default, it's a function that returns true. Um, Now, here we just have to check if uh, this function returns true, then we should delete. If you don't know what I'm doing here, it's simple. Imagine you have a book that is related to another, another table, and maybe you have some data on Firebase as well, and also you have some things in the configuration. So someone wants to delete that particular book, right? Before you actually run that delete from this table XYZ, you want to ensure that we are able to clear all of these maybe left behinds that we have. You could decide to go two ways. Either you you clear them after you have deleted the book, or you delete them before you delete the book. It's up to you based on the priority. So for us, we are saying we will delete things before we delete the book, right? So great. And we'll just run the function if deletable we know is a function, and then we just pass in the arguments. If that is not true, then you want to return, meaning an error occurs, so we cannot delete this thing. Maybe throw an exception or just return false for now. This is a simple system that doesn't require complicated code. Other than that, you want to run the delete function. So we can say that we already know that there's we just need to run delete from XYZ table where this is equal to this. For that to work, that means we must know the table. So every book, that implements the DB model must have their table, their primary key or the primary ID, so that we can just because this permanent string will be used on many other different books, right, or different objects that can be deleted. So if that's the case, or since that's the case, we need to find a way of having some common properties like the table, the default table, the ID column. So make it simple. We just have the table, and we say the ID column, right? Or for me, I like to use something that is like I have the name of the table, then I have an underscore, then I have the columns. The reason is when I do inner joins, I don't want to have ambiguous column and try to give things aliases. I don't like that. So what I do if I'm to have a table called maybe book ID, I'll call it book underscore ID. And if we will have another column called maybe book recorded time or book created at, I do book underscore. Now this one represents the table. Then created at is camel case. Yeah, like that. So most of the time, if you have you can even use this particular naming convention to set properties of the class when the thing load. So you can just extract this part, and then the rest of it can be just assigned to individual properties in the class. You know that there is a created at property and things like that. So that's how I usually name my columns to reduce work on my queries. Great. I'm thinking how I can do this deleted blah blah blah. I'm thinking about it. Let's just have some database stuff, right? So then we can say there are some. Let's just go back to the book abstract class and just add some few things here. Just for we're gonna call these ones table configs, right? In public table. So we know our table will be called book. It's going to be called book. And then we can use these columns, so we can use the name of the ID. Yeah, and okay, let's just say public um, identity ID column is equal to, now these ones should not be messed around with. So most of the time what I will want to do, I will like to keep them protected so that they are not just messed around with. Protected. Yeah. And book ID. Great. That is it. Um, Back to this one. We know that there will be the ID column and things like that. And now we need to have something to manage the database, right? For you, you will use DB face site in Laravel by default. Um, so now these are some of the things that you actually have to implement by yourself. Okay, so not uh, too safe. We don't need, for now, for this simple test, we don't need something that is too safe. So I'm going to CLS. I'm going to CLS, and then we will do something like PHP ZAS make. We want to make our class, and this one's just going to be called DB manager, right? Let's call it DB manager. Let's call it DB manager. Okay, just give me a minute. Uh-huh. So I was saying we will make, a DB manager, and we will just put basic function the basic function just to make a connection. That's all. mm, just to make a connection. Okay. mm, so we're gonna make PHP class make class DB manager, and that is it. So what does this DB manager do? Something simple. Let's just say simple. The only thing we have to do is to connect public function connect, and we just need to make a PDO connection. I'm not going to make a PDO connection from scratch. I'm going to go copy it from somewhere, or maybe just a MySQL connection. That's simple. Before I do that, I'm going to install the environment stuff, right? The env loader. So we'll say composer require say v lucas php.env. That should work. Now cool. With this I can literally go into the master. Great. I can go into the master, and here we can say I like to have this plain documentation. Loading environment in there, and then there. Great. So now we can have just do the .env. So I would just gonna call it let me call it .env. .env is equal to see, this thing has not automatically loaded. I have to go in the vendor just so that my indexer can index it, else it won't come. So let me just look at it, like pretending to look at it, so that I can have it here. It can auto import that for me. Yeah, there you go. Let's create an immutable, and we want this current directory to be. Then we just do .env load. So we know that our .env file is called this one. So here we want to say our DB name will be equal to maybe book DB. Then DB username is equal to root. DB password is equal to nothing. Then DB host is localhost. Again, you can organize your environment based on how you see fit. So we say database configurations config. Come on, perfect. Then here we could have environment config. We'll say our environment, or just say stage. Our stage is development. We'll just say dev. Perfect. Or good. It is enough to load the env for us. With the env loaded, we can go to our DB manager, and now you see, since this thing is in the global master, I can use it here because the setup automatically will include that for me. So with that said, since I know it's already in, that's the entry point in the first place, I'm going to call the global, not even calling the global, it's already in the env, the underscore env. So I'm going to get it from there. I'm going to say connection is equal to new MySQLi, and then our host name is underscore env db host, right? Then our username is db underscore username. That is now our password, db. And then finally we will have the database name itself. underscore db db name. I didn't put the db name there. Did I put it? I think I did. Or die. It's equal to MySQLi. Let's just assume there will be no error. There will be no error. Good. Return con. Here's me trying to build something quickly, right? Something that will work. You could decide to make a face site. Face sites are not very complicated to make, but I'm not going to make a face site. I'm not going to make a face site. In fact, let's make this even static, so that yeah, I can just access it. Great. Now we have our DB instance. We can go back to the permanence trait and work from there. Yes, we do have it. So we can just say our connection is equal to DB manager connect. And since we have it, we are assuming, okay, this one we can just have a single prepared statement. So we say stmt is equal to connection prepare delete from. We already know the table. The table is here. We know that it's gonna be this table. If you remember what we did in the class there, in the abstract book class. So delete from table where what? Where we already know the ID column. This ID column is equal to question mark. Then we are going to say return stmt execute. Then we just pass in an array that contains only one parameter, which is this ID. Perfect. That's how the delete works. Then if we want to disable a book, what do? We have to disable function. Public function disable. So public function disable, this one doesn't need anything. Probably we just need to copy this thing from here and just return, paste that here. Again, you could abstract all of this. In most of our systems, we usually abstract these things, the ones for inserting, updating, right? You can just write them in the DB manager. There's a whole complicated system that is built around this ZAS thing. I'm going to show you how it works and how routing is even done in the first place, because I know you are thinking about, okay, how is routing done? By default, the routing is just open like a normal PHP application, right? Routing is just there. It's just there. So I don't know if you are getting what I'm doing here, but I'm just trying to make a simple book API. Great. With that, let's jump right into it. I think we already have our system ready. So we're gonna say, now this one is, we are just updating, updating and setting some column to, we know that it's gonna be disabled, something like that. So we say update, which table are we updating? Update this table. Set. Then we know we will use the table name. That's why I like to have these patterns, because it's easier to follow it. This table, however, we need to put an underscore here. So let me put this in a bracket like that. This table underscore enabled, right? Set that particular column to 0, where this ID column is equal to question mark. And that's all. Returns. I like to document things, but let's just keep it like that. And then finally, we have the last function, public function enable probably. Yeah. You could decide to have a single um, function called visibility. Then we pass in the visibility here. I'm going to call this one as an int, and by default we are saying this is 0, meaning we are setting it to disable. So then we'll be passing in the visibility here. Set that to the visibility. Great. So then for the enable, we only need to return this visibility 1, and then for the disable, we need to return this visibility. We already know it's 0, so we don't need to suffer ourselves. Great. Okay, for the goodness sake, let's just put it there, 0. Now we have implemented the permanent trait. So what can we do? We go back to our book class. We know that we are using permanent trait, and this thing has to be behind. Do you know what just happened here? Oh, it's the class book. I was thinking, hey, what has just happened? So we don't need to put the permanent trait in here. This is not me teaching you how to build a system. I'm literally just teaching you how to use this ZAS thing. Yeah, trust me, things can get complicated really quickly, but that's not really true. You are able to, move around. That's the cool thing about it. And I've not even started routing things yet. I'm literally here trying to work on okay, we have feature property, everything. Let's just do the first thing. A book. We know that there is a book class. You can work on migration, but I'm not going to work on migration right now. So we say we know that our book has an ID, our book has a name, right? Let's just put some. Go back to the abstract book. Here it is. Let's add some cool stuff, right? We can say public created at, right? Then public updated at, yep, and ID, serial number. Great. Then come see something I'm going to do that's going to be cool, right? So here, when we are loading, we only need to connect to the database. So we say our connection first is db manager connect, and after you connect, give us that connection and make a query. So we will say result. What I'm thinking is, yeah, let's just use this one. It's simple. I'm trying to be as quick as I can to show you the main things. Result connection query, select all from, we know that our table, this table, right, where this ID column is equal to, this is not safe, but for now we'll just assume that it is safe. Yeah, okay. You can't put anything here else to say, hey, you didn't say this thing was an int. Okay, let's just leave it like that. We pray that we will cast it to an int at some point. I mean, I'm not going to waste time on that one. So if we're gonna say not empty result, or throw exception, right? That's all. Not found. Book not found. If it is, this is the cool thing I'm going to do. Oh, come on. Don't tell me I didn't include this exception class. I did not. Come on. Oh, show new exception. Sorry. Show new Now this thing, I'm going to make a face art for it so that I don't be having new exception. We just say throw exception colon new, you know, instead of doing new exception. Okay. Now that we have queried the book from the database, we have it. We can populate the property of this class. So we say y wait, we can say not empty, not empty. We are actually supposed to say results num rows is greater than 0 or we exit. So why our result, now I have a cool name for this thing. I usually don't call it result because that's too ambiguous. I usually call it info, for example book info, so that it doesn't cause trouble for me. Why we already know it's going to be the first row. There should be only one row that has this particular thing. We are not querying every single book in the database, so we're just going to say book info is equal to book info fetch associative. Yep. Now that we have it, again, this is an array, you understand? Okay, so I'm going to use a loop. Now this is the cool thing about the loop. So I'm going to use a loop and see what I was talking about. For each book as key, right? Value. So we can be able to use the column name of the database to determine the property. So the first thing we only need to do is to split this particular string. So we say the current property of the object is equal to, you know, say string split or SPLIT. I'm looking for that thing. String underscore. There you go. Good. We are what are we splitting by? This is supposed to be split. It's splitting by what? I don't know what it's splitting by actually. Let me hover over this function and see. Convert a string to an array. Get away. It's splitting it into characters. I don't want that, so I'll just use preg p regular expression split. We are splitting by what? Come on. We are splitting by underscore, right? We are splitting the key by underscore. And we know that the just pray that there should be no double underscore after. So the end of it, that, remember I was telling you, if we have like book underscore created at, when you fetch this thing from the database, you can know, okay, this is a book class, or maybe if you have some register for it. But when we split this thing by underscore, we know that created at is a property, and given that we already have the field to property, we can just simply set this thing. So we just say this for every, now try, right? We want to try. Good. Okay, let's just assume this works. We are not going to do many complicated things. It's just saving book information and getting the book information, deleting the book. That's a simple crude system. So we say this at, now property, see, very cool, and you pass in value. That's it. We have actually set the things from the database. Great. So this is how we can load something from load. Load. Okay, load, right? Good with that. The next thing is there is the constructor, and thinking about it, we're gonna say ID and we'll just call the parent constructor, say parent wait, no, I'm thinking how we call the constructor from the parent. Now I have to check for it. Can you imagine that? Parent what? Let me see. You see, it is not actually here. Does the parent itself have a constructor? Yes, it does. Then why can't that have access to it? Let me see. You know what? Let me check for this thing. I'm going to this browser here, and we're going to search for it. How to call the parent constructor PHP. I mean, this is the thing but the thing doesn't want to autocomplete. You see, that's the problem. So parent and then underscore. We're just passing the ID there. We know that this ID will call the load method, so we save. Now, how do we want to save a book? We want to save a book, save the name, save the serial number. I think that's all. Book. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We'll just save the book name, the serial number, the author, maybe. So let's just do something here. Public author, right? Yep, well, that makes sense. Just a string. It's not anything. The book name, author, then we say public page count, right? What else? We know that there is created at and updated at already there by default. So to insert this thing, our SQL is simple. We'll say insert, right, into this table. What are we inserting? We are inserting this ID column, name. Now, why is name? That's gonna give me a hard time. Name, serial number, author, page count. Man, what's wrong with this thing? Okay, page count. The rest of it will be filled automatically. Values, what? Values, question mark. There are how many there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Question mark 4, 5. Then on duplicate key, this is for updating now. On duplicate key, update, set what? We set name, question mark, serial number, got a question mark. Then what else can we have? Author, got a question mark, page count, got a question mark. And this is me just doing a simple development with ZAS. Yep, great. Those are it. Great. So on duplicate key, update. Now this update stuff, I need to take a look at some of my previous systems. Now this is one of the systems that are built on ZAS, so you can see there is root, authorize. We'll talk about that. I will show you this, but in the meantime, let me open some system here. I just want to see. I actually want to see Mhm. Let me see something that feature, for example. So there is the query. Mhm. Clear. I'm looking for insert. Okay. Oh no, not that one. On duplicate key update. Yeah, it's supposed to be update. It's supposed to be not update set. I just knew it. Great. Now we have it. We get our connection. And then we prepare. See this thing, you are doing it over and over and again, so you can just decide to have it done in a single method and then just return the prepared statement and execute it. Prepared. Now we're supposed to bind parameters. So if you look at this thing, it has some interesting behavior. You can see the only thing that was repeated here, the only thing that changed from this second and this first part is this part: name, author, name, serial number, author, page count. So the only thing you want to do is create an array. So we're gonna say values of the things that actually changed. So we know what changed was the book name. We know the book name changed. We know that the serial number also changed. We also know this the author changed as well, and then the page count also changed. So since these two changed, those are the main things. Now when we are binding, we are only going to bind very short. So we say system, so we bind params. Now you just have to be sure of what you're doing here. This is the place that makes me pissed. The first one is an ID, then they are all 1, 2, 3. Page count is not it's a number, so we're going to give it I. Then that means SSSI was repeated. So the first I was not repeated. So the first I was the ID, so which is this ID. And the rest of the other I's, the other ones were repeated. So we're just gonna do this. So we destructure the array. Great. Now that we have done that, we can simply execute now to just see if it actually did work and if the ID is set. Good. So we just say stmt execute. Bah. So it did. Really, we need to say if it executed, right? So this thing should execute, or we should throw an exception, or throw exception, throw new exception. Unable to save book. If it did execute, then we can set the ID. We say this, like our current ID is equal to connection, what, insert ID. That is it. Perfect. So just to be sure what we're doing, we're gonna say it's empty this ID, and yeah, so if the ID is empty, then we're gonna return true, for God's sake, right? Return true. Great. Now we have done all of the basic things needed to be done to save the book. We can load the book. Okay, we need one more method, which is just the all method that just return all. It's gonna be a static method, right? So we say public function all. It just returns all of the books, right? Public function all returns all of the book. I'm thinking, so since this is an API, let's make something that will be carrying our responses, something that will carry the responses, just a simple response carrier. So PHP ZAS make This is response. It's just a carrier, just a way of formatting our response. So we're gonna put it in some namespace. So we're gonna say make class in a namespace called formatter formatters. Formatters is gonna be called response. Yep. And does it have any? Yeah, it's gonna use the common field to property. Yep, there we go. So we now have our response class. Let's go there and fix things quickly. So this is it. Use field to property. With that said, we know our response class has some few things. So we're gonna say public. Let's make it simple. We have our code. We have our public status, public message, public, and then the data we are sending data. And we only respond with JSON, right? So we're gonna have two constants here, right? Just constant success, success, for the status, so that we don't have to be putting literals all around the code. Error, error, error. So now that we do have it, we can go ahead to say public. I have a face site for this particular response in the other project, because that one is a bigger project. But this one, we're just gonna keep it simple. Public static function JSON. And what does JSON take? It takes our status. Firstly, it takes the. So we'll make something interesting here. We'll say you can set the code. So this, our code, initial code is 200. So then here we only have to worry about status. By default, we are going to be returning, just not returning anything by default, right? So what do we start with first? We want to start with the message. Our message is empty. It's not usually there. And if our message, let's start with the status. Status, most of the time, is equal to success. But we'll just leave it like that. Our status, is it success or not? Then we have the message we are sending, which is usually that. And then our data we are sending is just an empty array by default. Then we're just going to return JSON encode. And what are we encoding? We are encoding an array. And this array, we have status. Maybe firstly our code. Our code is this code. Our message, not message, our status is the status that was passed. Our message is the message that was passed. And then our data is the data that was passed. Now quoting, we this is static. Now that's the thing. If this thing is static, it's gonna be hard to actually set the code in real time. So we will just have to make it a public function, and then we have to put a face side. We have to put a face side. So what is a face side? Just make things simpler. You don't have to be creating response, like new response, then you set the response code, right? It's gonna take some time to create. Let me just clear this. We're gonna create a face side, right? So PHP ZAS make class. It's not a class, it's an abstract. It is an abstract. We want to call it support face side. It's going to be this simple, right? PHP ZAS make support face side. Perfect. There you go. Bap. So let's open the face side. We know our face side has one thing. It has an abstract function. Wait. Now I'm thinking about it. Was it a static one? Now I have to check my other project to see whether I made it static over there. If I did make it static, yeah, that's what happens when you have very big these projects. I am supposed to be checking in supporters, abstracts, support. Come on. Yep. Oh, it is a static function. It is a static function. This one is something complicated, returning construction info, but I'm just going to make it simple. So I know that I have an abstract. Yeah, there it is. Good. Good. Abstract, protected, static, accessor. Wait, access, static function. I told you function. I don't know why I always forget about it. Good. And then now we can have the public static function underscore call static. So we already know we're gonna have the name, blah blah blah. So this thing we know that it's gonna be implemented. So we're just gonna say instance, right? Instance is equal to just static accessor. Now we have gotten that, and then we're gonna say class right there. Then we're gonna say return, right? Should we make a new object and let's just to keep it clean, let me make a new object. So we say instance is equal to new class, just new class. We assuming that you don't need anything to pass to the constructor, because for the other one I made, you had to pass the default value for the constructor, and that's why I called it construction information. But here this is simple, right? New class, and then we are going to return instance. Then we are calling this method on the instance name, and then in that name we pass the arguments, like that. Good. With that said, then we can make the response face side now. You see, PHP ZAS make class response, but then we are making it somewhere else. Response in support. Yeah, let's use PPORT support. Let's call it face side, then response. The parent class is support abstract face side, like that. Support abstract face side. Is there anything that I want here? Nah, not really. Good, we have it. There we go. So it should have the accessor. Great. So we know that this accessor will only return response, right? Return, that's the name of the class. But no, we have to return this class, the response class itself. So we say response. Now response from the formatter, and that one class. Yeah, that's the one we are going to return. And we just need to do some little documentation here just to keep things. Let me just tell you what I'm doing, just so that we don't have problem with autocomplete. So we have a method, and the method is a static one. Everything here is static. So we say static JSON, yeah, static JSON, Okay, what does it return? It returns string like that. Then what does it take? It takes in the string status, string message, then next I'll just say array, data. So we just say data is always an array, right? Then we have one more method at method code. Yeah. Code is used, so it's a static. It doesn't return anything. It returns the response itself, formatter formatters response. To make things simple, I'm going to copy this, paste it there. Yeah, it returns that, and it's called code. And what does it take in? It takes in an integer code, right? Then we have one more method against the same thing. This time this one returns an integer, and it's called code. Remember the getters and setters we're talking about. Now, since we have this response face side, we're good to go. We're very good to go. So now this response class, we don't have to make it abstract. We can just, and you're going to see what I'm talking about just in a minute. Okay, now to just illustrate some concept, let's use the constants class. PHP ZAS make constants, which response, just say formatter response. Yep, PHP ZAS make constants formatter response, and that's what it does. I'm just going to copy these constants from here, these two constants, and I'm going to paste them in this. So I told you, when you look at the documentation, you can see that constants class actually have a private constructor. So you just put your constants there, just like an enum, right? Keep the constructor private, so no one creates anything of that. Okay, and I mean, all of these things, they are actually specified in the command here. Making class, PHP ZAS make abstract class, PHP ZAS make class, PHP ZAS make trait, --f, PHP ZAS make interface, PHP ZAS make constant class. Now making actors, we are going to go there when we are adding and deleting books, but for now we are just making the background, right? PHP makes supporters, and we'll talk about configurations. We have not done any configuration yet. We're going to do those ones. Great. And I think this is it. So we can go back. We now have things like this. Simple, clean. Great. We have our response now. So going back to our book class, which is not abstract, we want to have returning all. So we need to query the database for that. Con connect, right? So we just want to select everything. So we say all books is equal to con query. What I'll do, I want to get everything as an array, right? stmt. This one has no paging, so if you want to query all of the books, I mean, I told you this thing is going to be simple. Con prepare select all from this table. Then what happens? Say stmt execute, or throw couldn't fetch all books. If that's the case, if we have them, then we want to say the books is equal to stmt. Then we say get result, yeah. Then we convert that to an array. Say books is equal to books. And then we say fetch all my SQLi. I want them to be associative. Then we are returning this, return books, throw new exception. That is it. Good. Now we have done everything. I usually like to document my code. So this one, return bool, we save books, save the book. I'm not going to worry about the return type here. I'm just going to say loads a book from the database. Then we load the book from the database, right? Great. And then I can say get all books from the database. I don't know what it's returning. I don't care. Good. Now we have made the book class, right? Isn't it? Let's clear. Good. Response class, everything working. Let's move to the next part of this. So I'm going to go to my database and let's create the book DB. Again, you can add methods to this ZAS tool, and I'm going to show you how to do that. In fact, the router, we are going to make our router to be created with the ZAS tool. I'm just going to copy the router I've created so far, and then I'll show you where we put things and things like that. So with that said, let me just create a new database. Create database book DB. It says book DB. Yeah, just book DB. That is not a problem. We'll just call it book underscore DB. Then in book DB, we want to create tables or book table. So create table book. Yeah, that's the name of the exactly creatable book, and then we have a book underscore ID. Remember, I told you int unsigned, not null, auto increment, primary key. Good. Then we have our voucher of just 100, the book name, the name of the book, voucher 100, not null. Then we have another voucher, let's say, let's keep it at 50, which is come on, SE. So we need to put the book underscore name here, book underscore name. Then we have okay, book underscore serial number. So book underscore serial number is a voucher, and it's not null, and then what else do we have? We have author, right? A book author, book underscore AUTHOR. This is also voucher. I mean, let's just assume this guy can have a very big name. and not null. You must put a book author, no pirated book. And then finally, we now have our integer, which is page count. Not null. Everything here is not null. Then, why is it? Oh, come on. Int unsigned. It should, the way we declare variables. That's what I'm getting confused here with. Then we have create. This now. Remember, this is book underscore page count. Else your algorithm will break. Book underscore page count. Book underscore created at datetime default current timestamp. Then book underscore updated at, it's the same date time default current. Then we say on update current timestamp. So we have it populated automatically. Book name, book ID, book underscore author, book underscore page count. Great. So yes, I want to execute that. So we only have one stuff in our book DB. Now we have created the book DB, but we are not done yet. So let's start making. So we have everything that is supposed to be used. We now have everything that is supposed to be used on the side of the supporters, right? So we have all of the supporters ready. Now it's time to make the actors. So what can we do? We can add, we can delete, we can update, and add and updating should just be the same thing. I'm not going to write them twice. That's why I used persist function for both adding and updating. So we can add, we can update, or add or update. We can delete. Then what can we do? We can get, right? We can get all, we can get some, right? We can get a book of a particular ID. It's up to us. Okay. With that said, let's go to creating these actors. I didn't make any background yet. Maybe we will make a background, right? Just maybe. So we do PHP ZAS. Now make actor. We're going to make an actor. What's the name of the actor? Is firstly adding book, right? Add, and we are going to make it dash in the foreground, and it's going to, first we need to make the book actor group. So book, then we say it's a directory dash in for let's just keep it like that so that it's clean. Make book and then make it a directory D. So in foreground and then make it a directory. This should work. Successfully make the book. Now we are done with these guys. We are here, so you can see it automatically created a setup. Now this setup will include the other setup that is outside. That's why I said in the documentation it is hierarchical. And then this other setup now is the one that includes another setup outside here, which then include the master setup. So you see, with each of these files, you can control the behavior of the sub. It's like it is like if you have an ht access file in a directory. So great. With this setup file, do we need to put anything in this setup file? You could put additional code here to check if this person has permissions to access book resources, or you could do something, right, that change the state of the request so that when it reaches the actor file itself, those actors file can maybe do something as per the request. Now with that said, I'm going to do PHP ZAS. Now we make actor at dash in for we're making it in foreground, and the parent directory is book, Yeah, PHP ZAS make actor add dash in foreground and parent is book. There you go. We have it. There it is. Add a PHP. See it. It automatically includes the. Great. Now that we have everything that we need, let's start writing the code. We know what do we expect to come here. Let's just use, if you want to add a book, we need to get some post data. You can decide to um, make a request wrapper, like a post wrapper. If you want us to do that, we could do it. I mean, it's always nice. It's nice, right? It's nice getting the data from the what's the name, the request. So what to do, we don't care whether it's get or post, right? So we're just going to, let's make things interesting. Let's make a post. So PHP, not a post, PHP ZAS make class what? Common. Is it common? Let's call it wrapper. Requests. So yeah, PHP ZAS make class wrapper requests, and this thing only has posts. It only has maybe request, then you do data, and then you get the data. We are not going to, you know, struggle a lot. So with that said, I'm thinking, yeah, you could say request posts this, request get this, you know, no one really cares. Could be post get or okay, let's just use post and get, yeah, for now, only that. So I hope I'm sharing this screen good. So make that, and let's just have it like that. So construct, we don't really care. So we say public function post. Now what I'm thinking, I don't know if you are thinking the same as I'm thinking, but I know that we several requests, or there is the request stuff, say request something. So just say the request, this request has function data. Yeah, request, so it's a static function, public static function, just use data for now, data, and then this will actually return a new request. See, it's simple, isn't it? And when we have that, we can do public function underscore call. So here we're praying that every information in the, oh no, should we do that? You know what? Let's try something. Let's just try something. This is what I do usually when I'm coding and learn new things. So PHP-A, let's make this thing interactive. Good. We're gonna make a new array. Array is equal to test here equal 1. That's it. Now obj, let's convert this to an object. Object array. Ooh, okay. Then let's var dump this object. Let's see what we get. Oh, wait. Seriously? Seriously? Okay, let me see. You see, obj text here. Wait, echo wait. You see, that should cause out. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So then how did it even work? Okay, wait. Let's say echo obj, right? Text dash here. Again. Great. See, still doesn't work. But then how does it really, how does it text underscore here? Undefined property, text underscore here. So only this actually works. Text here. You see, so really, how do we access that property that has the dash? How do we access it? It doesn't look quite simple at all. If it was easy to just access it like an array. Okay, we could do array accessible, we could implement array accessible. But I'm sure that there is a way. Wait. Let's find this thing. Right, let's find this thing. How to access that array. Okay. There it is. That is it. Oh. I think this one can actually work. This one can actually work. Let's do that one. So get the request, then we do public static. No, let's say public function name. Wait, there is the get behavior. Okay, let me just do that one. Let me see. Underscore get name. We're just going to return this. Let's just say return this name. This is simple. But that's not true. That's not true. This doesn't have that. We're gonna be returning request at name. Perfect, isn't it? Okay, that's great. For now, let's just take it like that. Okay. thinking, yeah, I'll just leave it like that, just to keep things simple, right? So we are not making a wrapper for it. We know that's going to give us the request. So all we can do here is we can say REQ is equal to request data, which just actually gives us request. And then we know that this book must have a name. I usually like to have this clean function that cleans things, but for now let's keep it like that. We're not cleaning anything. That's why I use prepared statements. Request, and what do we want? We want the book name. Then the name, we need serial number. Serial number. Serial number. What else? We need author. Then there should be author. Then now we have author. Then let's have page count. Page count. Great. Then we go ahead to create a new book. So we say book is equal to new book. We know our ID. We don't have any ID. It's 0 because this is just adding book. However, we will assume that these people sent us an ID. That's gonna be nice. ID is equal to, because I'm going to use this for updating as well, so we say there's an ID there, which of course there will be no ID, but who cares? If you're adding a book, it will automatically just save the book because there's no ID. And then now we have created the book. We only need to check if this book persisted, right? If persists, if not book persists, okay, let's do clean something. So we say book persist or exit with, you remember the response that we're talking about? Here it comes. Response. Now there's the face side. I don't want that one. I want the face side. Response. Then we can start with the code is some error on our side, 500. You know. Then we want to send a JSON. Yeah. Status is response. You could even make a face ad for these things. Error. Unable to add the book. There's no data, we don't care. Good. So what's even cooler is we can do something in this JSON method here. We can say HTTP response code is this code. See? So if it is 500, you're going to see it will be 500 error. And oh, I needed to close down here. Yeah, so the book will persist, or we are going to exit with a 500 internal server error. Great. Now that we have done the one for hiding book, this is it. This is it for adding book. So what we're gonna do, I have this thing called Thunder Client, and we're gonna use that to test our book API. So I know it's gonna be going to look HTTP localhost. Then we are going to say test. Yeah, this thing is called test. I think so. Let me exit its place. Yeah, it's test. Then we know we go into actors, foreground. This is where everything happens. Foreground. Then now both. So for your when you deploy this thing, this will be your root directory. Um, the root directory will be foreground, and then things starts from here. Book add PHP. Then we need to send some data. So we can use get or post. I just use post, for the sake of using post, which is form encoded, something like that. I don't have a problem with it. We have the book name is book 1. Then we have the serial number. Serial number is maybe 1 2 3 4 5 6 A. Author is Levi author 1. Levi author. Page count is 1,200. I'm a writer. I write a lot of books. And finally, we need to have the ID, but then ID has no value. Let's send that and see. Yep, there we go. There we go. Our first error. You can see fatal error. Constant expression contains invalid operations in on line 17. Okay, so let's check what is happening here. I need to rename this thing. It's gonna be called book test. Yeah, so that I can come back to it later on. So on line 17, there is a problem on line 17. Let's go there and see. Permanence trait is in the trait folder. Trait, permanence. On line 17. Wait. So you mean okay, let me see. Closure. Yeah, that one. Let's see if it still has the same problem. Yep. So this should be a constant expression. Okay, that'll do. Just keep it clean. Control X, make this empty string, then say if empty, deletable, then we can just do that. Deletable is equal to a function. That one. We could say it is a callable, right? Then here there is the call user function array. Okay, let me just use that. If not, call user function deletable, and then the arg suggests arg. Let me see if this one causes any problem first. It should not. Let's look for our next error. Fatal, cannot use string as default value of. Okay. But then when I put function there, it tells me it's a problem, blah blah blah. So that means this thing cannot have a default. Let's set it to no. So we can say if callable, right? If is, so let's do if not is callable. Yep. Okay. Great. Now this is where the next thing starts happening. 200. Okay. Unknown column name in field list. Come on. Okay. I supposed to say. I was supposed to say into the book class. Persist. The persist function. It should not be name. It should be book name. What was I thinking? Now you see, I don't have to even put these things around here. So let me just fix that. Let me fix that. Book underscore that. Then let's clear these ones. So I'm holding Alt to select more than one place at a time. In case you are thinking, what is this guy using? Just know I'm using Alt. Okay, there we go. Then I want now to put the book again, Alt here, book underscore. Great. So let's test again and see the next set of error we get. Cannot be null. Column book name cannot be null. Really? That means, oh yeah, I see the problem. I just created a book and I didn't set the properties. You see, we have book, the name of the book. We're just gonna say name. I mean, we could have set this thing up here, but anyway, so that we don't have to, you know, have a lot of unclean code. And I'm just going to cut that one, put it there directly. Yeah, this is me trying to shorten code. Don't like writing long code. Q request name, our book serial number, our book author. So what happened if the book actually persisted? I didn't send a response. Can you imagine? Book author is request author, then book page count, there you go. So what happens if the book successfully updates? I want to convert the book into a JSON object and return it. I don't know if it's possible to convert this book into JSON, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see about that. So we're gonna say exit with this response. We know that the code is automatically success, so we just want to say response. This response constant is too long. Then finally the data is now, it's supposed to be an array. I don't know if it's possible to convert this thing into an array. Probably I think it is possible, serializable, but now I'm just run away from that. Yeah, I'll just run away from that. But let's try, right? Let's try. Can we convert this thing to, will it complain? I'm thinking is what is going to complain, but again, try an error. Yeah. Uncaught. Bad method. Name is not found. Name is not found. Really? This thing telling me name is not found. That's not true. That means something is wrong with that trait. So let's go there and fix it. It said this name or true. You mean this name is not set? It actually should be. Or is there something wrong with this? No, we can say static. And this supposed to refer, you know, let's now go to the debugging session. var dump this. So it's something I'm suspecting here. There is name. And this thing is telling me name is not found. Wow, wow, wow. You see that? You see what I'm talking about? It said this name or true you mean this name is not set? Okay, this should not be a debugging section. We have a lot of things to finish. Let me see. Okay. Name is not found. Wait. This has not happened before. Now it has happened. And I'm still thinking, is either it set this name or true new var method call? But we know that this is set. But yet it's telling us it's not set. Oh, yeah. Sorry for that. It's supposed to be property exists. Property exists. Yeah. Oh, finally. We have finally created our first, saved our first book to the database. ID is 1. Created at and updated at. I didn't fetch them from the database, so that's why we are seeing it like that. So we're gonna save another book 2. Serial number is this B. It was written by Levi Otto Kamara. Yeah, that's our second book. So let's have our then we have BC. That's our third book. Good. Now I'm going to show you something cool. Right? Let's come back to our database. You can see we have 3 books in our database. That's what I was talking about. Now, let's say we want to update. We know this one ID is ID 3, right? So let's say we want to update ID 3 name to be Spider Farm. SPIDER, Spider Farm. So you see the ID is still number 3. You can see the when it was created, when it was updated, which is this one was the one it got from when it fetched again, but after it updated it didn't refetch, so that's why. Great. So if we update and then we want to refresh, we can do the refresh. We can create a refreshing method that will actually refresh and get the new data. And to do so, let's say right after the persist method, we're going to call something called refresh. So just going to be a simple trait, PHP ZAS make trait, just common, just a refresh trait. Yeah. So all this refresh trait does, it has the method called public function refresh. Though there are some things you have to do here, but let's just say for now we'll ignore all of them. This is a simple system. Load, and then we do ID. Great. And this is gonna be this ID. Yes, and then we go back to our abstract class. So let's go to the abstract classes here, this face side. I want an abstract, the book abstract, and we're going to use refresh trait. There you go. So right after the load is, right after persist is called on the book class. Where is this book class? It's in the book class of PHP. Great. Right after that, we want to refresh. So say this refresh. There you go. Now, if we do add new books, it should be refreshing. So instead of saying ID 3, we remove the ID. So you don't put an ID if you want to add a book. We're going to add another book made called marked on head. A. Then we save that book. Watch it. You see, it has it refreshed and got the new data. If I update this book again, let me just update it again. You'll see that the update time will be different. BCR, that's the serial number. Wait, they are both having the same. Now there's a problem here with the created at and updated at. I think the constraint that I put on updates, wait, on updates should be there is some problem here, right? There's some, let's wait, let's see. So we added BCR. Oh, I wasn't updating, the ID was empty, so let me put the ID back, which is 5. Then let's send. Yeah, ID is 5. Wait, ID is 5. Run it again. ID is 5. ID is 5. Okay, nothing was updated. Let's change something. BCEE. Yeah, great. You can see the update time and the adding time are different. So when nothing is updated, it won't change the update time. Great. Now that we have added all of these different books, we have 5 books. Let's move into adding the remaining actors, so we know adding and updating takes the same step. We don't need to worry about anything. Great. You can decide to make an update stuff and just include add, right? And let's just make it for the sake of it, but I don't need it. Yeah. But let's just make it for the sake of it. PHP ZAS. Now for the update requires that the ID be set. The ID should not be empty. So we'll say PHP ZAS make actor. It's gonna be um, say book slash update. Yeah. In 4. Great. So we should have the update. Where are you? There you are. Great. So we included a set of file in here. So this thing only wants to make sure that the ID is set. So we're just going to say our request is equal to, now you could decide to get the request globally, data, and we just want to ensure, say, is not empty, right? Request ID or exit with client error, right? So we're gonna now call the response wrapper. The code is, what are we telling them? We're telling them it's not 200, it's client error 401, right? I don't know what we can say, but we can say 401 or 40 something, and it's a client error, right? 40 something, and then our JSON message is just a response constant error at our message, enter ID, please specify book to update. Great. Now that we have that, we already know. So here we can only go ahead to say I need to remove this from here. We're going to say, now we can decide to include or require or whatsoever, right? Require at dot, so require this directory. Yeah, that's all. In so this one is only checking if ID is set, and that's it. So we'll go back to test our stuff. Let's go back to test it. This time around we are going to remove the ID, and then we'll try to hit the update field. We'll try to hit the update root. If you do that, see what you get. 401 unauthorized. You see that? 401 error. Please specify the book to update. That's the response we got because it didn't specify the book to update. But if we specify the book to update to ID 3, what do we get? Hey, are you serious? Wait, send. Hey, now there is a bug. We say not, it's not empty. So are you trying to say that ID is empty? Which of course we know it's not. So what is happening? Ooh. Seems like there is some problem here, right? So I am going to echo, just echo request ID. then let's run this. ID is not empty, it's 3. That means there is some problem somewhere. There is actually some problem. Not empty. Oh, oh, oh. Okay. Okay, let's do something. We'll say not empty. Okay, we'll say let's do something. Let's do something. It set let's see what we get here. Me is wait oh. I don't know if you are seeing what I'm seeing. Wait. Me request ID is not set. It is. He. Now, I literally don't know. I literally don't know what is happening here right now. I don't know what is happening here. Yeah, this is the life, right? The life of the developers. I mean, we have spent some time coding here. Oh wow, I can see Susan Imali. I don't know when you came, but thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Ah, there's no current viewer. She has left. But no worries, no worries. I will just finish. I will finish it. Great. I'm still thinking about how to fix that particular error. Like, what is happening? Is it because of the request wrapper? You know, this request wrapper has a function underscore call, return request name. So wait oh. What is happening right here? I want to use an if block. I don't want to use an if block. I don't if block won't also work. If request ID. Oh, wait. Wait, let me see something. Let me see something. So I changed this thing here. I've just changed this thing here. Let me run this and see. Oh. There is something again I've seen. So because add itself actually included, and I don't want to do require once. Require once, they are expensive. So I don't want to do require once. I don't want to do require once because I know require once. So you see, that's what happened because I did require once. It is now uh, causing problems. Yeah, so because I did require. Now if I do require once, it's gonna cause. So now I'm thinking, how can I bypass so that you are able to include other files on the other ones, like, and I don't want to do require once. So what do you think? Is there a way to bypass this? Hmm. Uh, phew, okay. Hmm. Mm, this could be as simple as just calling this add. So now that's another problem I've seen, right? Maybe we could just require this and use it, but now I have to I have to I have to only use the without the uh, this particular setup. So you can see files are distinguished. That means at some point there will be duplicate code. However, if we wrap this in a function, then it's easier to do. Um, so for me, the solution I'm looking at is giving all of these setups different signatures. They all have their own signature. So when you include them, they check for their signatures. If the signature is set, then it doesn't run the hmm, the includes. But again, I don't want to do require once. I don't want to do require once. So just to keep things short, what to do, we'll clear this from here. I don't want to do require once now. So I'm just going to take this guy, which is the same thing, paste in here. You see, we could have update equal true, add equal true, and then we check in the add if it is updating or it is adding, then that can work. But since we'll just have it like this, and successfully updated the book, right? Cool, and able to update the book. Great, now we have done add, update. Let's do get, not actually get. I'll just have this one book.php, make actor book in for, it's actually book/book. Maybe get, let's say get, right? Yeah, there you go. So get will return for us a single book. So we can just say same thing, request, just say $req is equal to request data. You know that there will be an ID. If there's no ID, this thing is gonna crash. A set with not empty ID or exit response code 401, which is, I don't know what 401 is, and 402. 401 is unauthorized. It's fine. JSON. Choose the book to fetch. Please choose the book to fetch. If not, we will not allow you to fetch the book. Great. Now that we have this, we only need to load our book because another book is already there. Book ID. Though you can check if book exists, but that one we are going to be checking it. Book ID. Actually, it's just new book. Book. So got a new. Come on. Request ID. I'm saying ID here when there is no. Oh man, this is not going to work. I'll just exit. I know there are some things we have to check, but I'm not checking them. Response, just response JSON success. This name is long, yeah. This name is long. Success message found book. Then we'll say our data is book. And that's it. So we are going to our stuff and we're going to get the book. So this book is gonna be get book slash get PHP, and we only need the ID get book number 3. Send that. There you go. Found book. Spider farm. ID 3. So this is. So if let's do something like ID 10. Let's see what we get. Ooh, uncaught. Book not found. Yeah. So we didn't. We should do try and catch. We'll do that later on. Now there's no try and catch because you remember we were throwing an exception when we tried to get the book in the load method. So let's do 5, get 5, book found. This is it. Leave our auto camera back on the head. Again, this is just simple CRUD system built with ZAS. So let's do CLS clear PHP ZAS make. We want to make an actor all, that is a book slash all in foreground. So we know we already have the all.php, and all.php, what does it do? We just get all of the books. We don't care about whatsoever data. We don't even care if you are authenticated. We just send you all of the book. So we say exit, say response, right? No, that's not the one I want. I don't want the formatters. I want the face side. In this place we love face side, isn't it? Response face side, and then we're going to respond over JSON. Constant. You know, I'm gonna think. I'm even thinking if I can have success, then message then the data is books. Wow, all. This book all method is not static, it should be static. If we had a book face site, then we couldn't need to make this thing static. Oh, right, that would be cool. Let's have a book face site, right? PHP ZAS make class support face sites. Oh, PHP ZAS make class support face sites book. The parent class is support, say support, right? Support slash what? Go to abstract. I need the abstract. Support face site abstract face site. Cause my baba na be maybe. So yeah, it extends abstract face site. And what does the assessor return? Return the book. Return book. No, it's not global book. Use book as global book. Okay. Return book class. There you go. So basically, that's all. Now we can use the methods for assessing. Let's use that method. Can say at method static all. What does static all do? Static, this thing returns an array all. That's all. That's the method name. Then we go back to our all, and now we can have the book face site instead of the book itself, right? Isn't it? We can use book. There you go. There you go. Come back here. We're going to be going for the all. No one cares if it is get or post right now. You can check if it's get or post if you want. Too few arguments to book constructor. Wow. 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 Okay, so let's just fix this book constructor once and for all. Open global book. Go to the book constructor and id is equal to 0. Good. Send. There you go. We have all of our books. Book ID, book name, book serial number, book author, page count. That is it. So to actually make it to be consistent with what we usually have, right? I'm going to now. I don't like to have two objects at two arrays at the same time, but I'm just going to keep it like that. I'm gonna have let's do books. No, let's do array underscore work books. Then our callback takes in the value, comma, index, then we say books. Now that means we'll literally be calling the database twice, and I don't want that, right? I don't want that, so just leave it like that. I don't want to make double call here, double calls. So now we've done all. Now the last thing to do is delete. So PHP ZAS make actor delete dash in for parent is book. So we need the ID first. So make sure there's an ID, right? So say if so what I'm going to just come to here, let me add one more thing, which is video capture, so that we can both see each other, isn't it? Yep, this should work. No. Let's cancel that. Let me remove this. So we're going to add video capture, already existing camera. Okay, good. Just so that we are seeing each other clearly, I can just be here, you can just be there, then you can see what I'm doing, right? So I'll just stay in the corner there. But this OBS software, this particular streaming software is very good. So we know that we want our ID to be requests. This is supposed to be wrapper HTTP request, but again, this was just something simple. You can think about making it better on, right, as you go on. So if it is empty, not empty, not empty, not empty ID, or exit site code 401, right? JSON constant error. Please choose a book to delete, and that's how we're gonna exit. Great. If it is not empty, then we have to create a new book. So it's a book. Wow. We need the book face items. If you okay, book ID. Let's see. Book ID. Wow. I'm not sure if that thing is gonna work, but I know we're supposed to create a book, and then we load the book. Wow. They're supposed to give us the book, right? Book. If this works, I'm going to laugh. Be okay. Then we're supposed to refresh, but we don't even need the book. Just need to get the delete method. And do we pass anything here? Not really. We just want to delete, right? So not delete. No, it's either the book delete or exit a response. We already know is and then our code is 500, and our JSON is response constant error could not delete the book. I don't want it to, I know that's going to come there. I don't like that coming there. Else just exit with response code. I don't need code here. We only need to exit with response JSON. Response JSON constant successfully deleted book. And we're going to send back the book actually, so that maybe if it was an accident that they want to undo, right, they can just send that book to us. So book load, we are loading book ID. I'm not very sure this is gonna work, but let's see what we got. All right, so what do we want to delete? We want to delete our first book. Let's make ID to be one. This one, no one cares for them. Let me just clear them. Now it's time for the moment of truth. It's a moment of truth. The moment. Get ready to see an error. We are used to that. Boom. There we go. I know it. Too few arguments. Abstract, book, comma, closure, pass, and exactly what unexpected. Permanent strict. Abstract, book. On line 20. Can we find the permanent straight? Refresh straight, permanent straight. On line 20, what was? Oh. Wait. I mean, we need absolutely nothing here. We need something. No, not really. Okay. Come here. Let's see again. There we go. We got it. Successfully deleted their book. Good. Now we have deleted all of the books, right? Isn't it? No, we have deleted some of the book. Let's see how many books we have now. All the PHP. Yeah, ID 2, ID 3, ID 4, ID 5, ID. Wow, guys, this has been great. Now, let's go to some of the the things we could do. Right? Let's extend ZAS now. CLS. This one I'm not going to sit here and do it from scratch. You understand? I'm not going to do it from scratch. I'm going to be referring to one of my other projects, and then I'm going to be using that. So, what I did was to just have the concept of routing, right? I made something else so that anything that is not explicitly allowed is denied. So to allow an actor file to be rootable, we will put hash rooted here, just like that. Hash rooted. So all of the actor files we want to be rootable, we'll put hash rooted. Hash rooted right up there. So we have it in update, we have it in get, we have it in all. We need to have it in add. Update. Now delete is also rooted. You could use any name. ROU. We could even say public, right? This is not really used for the system. It's used for ZAS. When ZAS is trying to create the root, it has to know which files to put in the root. So the root is just a hash map. I actually just made it a hash map so that it's faster. And now let me show you how I did that. So I'm going to open this side. There we go. This is the one that I have been working on. So firstly, I made that. There is the config. This is the app configuration. And for example, this is how you get a config. App config, blah blah. But I also made some helpers in things like the global function. So if you go to classes, functions, right? Global functions, I'm using a trick here to load for me the global functions that I have. Like there's a class that has only one method called boot that actually does nothing. But when this method is called, all of these functions are actually defined. So you can see config actually does this. This is the config class. And yeah, there are some things that are happening here. but now these ones are not going to be used. These other code, they are not going to be used. The new ones are the ones you are seeing here. So these ones down here will be recreated because we were trying to migrate an old system to this place. Okay, so let me now take you to where we had that. So we had the root manager class. I'm just going to copy all of this code here, all of it. You see, there's a function called root directory that's supposed to give us the root directory, and it is in the global function. So let's do ours on this side. I'm gonna say PHP ZAS make class common, not common, functions, global functions, like that. So we now have our global functions. Perfect. So I only need to copy. I need to have one method here, public function, the public function boot, and it does nothing. It's just to fool this the system to define these functions. Now, good, good. The next thing I need to copy is the some of the global functions here that I actually want to use. Not clean. I don't want to use clean. I was telling you about the clean function. I don't want to use config. I only want to use this one. And again, I like to document my things. env, I don't want to use env, just to document my things. Oh yeah, I need to bring env, the env function, just because the root manager will need to know the environment we are in. That's why I said environment is equal to development, but we're going to fix that. Great. Now we have some things in the global function. So the next thing we have to do is to go to our master setup and make sure that this function gets booted. So we're gonna have sorry, but I like to document things like this, so that BOT global functions, and there you go. So we're just gonna say global functions, as you can see here. Boot. No, that's all. But this is not a static class, so we have to go there and make a static method. Public static. It's not a static method, now it's a static method. Good. So we have booted the global functions. Then the next thing we need to do is to go back. You see, there is this thing called custom ZAS right here. Now this is where you can actually extend ZAS behavior, right? So first I need to make a class called the root builder. Let me make that first. Just to build the root, PHP ZAS make class root. It's in the tools. I usually put them in tools namespace. And this is going to be called root buil root builder, right? Just like builder. Okay, just builds the root array. So we're just going to call it root builder. It's that simple, isn't it? Yeah, that's okay. So now we have the root builder. Here it is. And so here I'm coming to actually get the things in the root builder. It just has one method called build that goes around and build the root. So that is it. And oh no, it's not there. It's here. There we go. Good. So I need to include this file maker. So let me see. Yeah, just to include it. Is there any red line somewhere? Yes, I can see root directories, because we didn't specify. Yeah, you can see now it's coming from functions root directory function. Good. Now we have something, just some other little things again we have to do. We have to go to the CLI, then we have to include this other command called ZAS-create. It's a new, relatively new one. Okay, just this case, because we are going to add a new command that will be called php ZAS-create root. So by default it's not here. If I let me just show you that it's not here. If I say php ZAS-create root, they tell you enter a known command, right? So for us to make that command known, we need to use the custom ZAS. This is ZAS constant. We need to include some constants here, and the example I gave you was the one to use ZAS-create. So you can, this is the ZAS-create. I have some other ones like constant csc roots is equal to roots, just like that. So when I go back to the CLI, let's just say it's a root builder. Let's go to custom ZAS CLI. I know this is something complicated, but it is not. You read this in the documentation, and if you can just try to create a simple project. Okay, so there's no, I even made a command to create a face site because I didn't want to be doing it manually over and over and again. Again, this is me, very lazy. So as soon as I know I'm using something over and over, I put it in a function and run away. So then now we need to have the build root function. So you see, before you create a command, you put the command in the CLI. So CLI ZAS helper, there is this process method. This process method will firstly call the ZAS parent command handler. When it doesn't handle the command, it's going to return false. That means the command was not found. Then that will be passed to your own command handler down here. So for me, we have added a new command that say create. So if there is create, we check if the next argument arg value 2 is root. If it is root, then we're going to say this build root. Now, but this build root needs to be defined not in the CLI, but rather in the ZAS helper, this one here. So that's how we are coming to define the build root. So let's going to copy that one from the ZAS helper too. Here it is. And this one is the one that makes the face site for us, but I'm not going to use it. Let's call this one, and let's use this one here. And we know root builder is this one we want. Perfect. Come on, G. Yeah. So good. Now we have, funny enough, the root needs to have its own configuration. So again, I told you ZAS is open. You can freely change things. So you see here we added a new config called roots file. The name of the root file will be called root. So we're going to put that in our own ZAS configuration. Put that here. Now this is custom. This is not the one that comes with ZAS itself. So this one is from some other project, and I'm just, so we put the path, so we tell ZAS where to put the roots file in case it has created it. So we are going to put it in here, roots, there it is. So with that said, we're good to go. So we're gonna do php ZAS create roots. There is an error. What happened? Argument must be of type countable, null, given online 14, root builder online 14. So there is an error on line 14. Maybe let me go to root builder and let's see what's happening on line 14. Line 14. Wait, it is, oh, line 44. This root count. Oh, okay, I didn't define the roots. It's an array, so we say public array roots is that. Again, let's see ls. Let's see the next error that's gonna come. Great, there's no error. Build root builder successfully build the roots. Good. So now we can check roots. You can see there's a new folder that has been created, and in here you see this is how the roots look. This is basically a hash map. There's book, all, book get, book update, book delete. Now what actually enforces this root? What enforces the root is the root manager. Have we made the root manager? I don't think so. I don't think so. We have not made the root manager yet. Yet. So let's see, how was this root manager made? In which folder did I make it? So if I check my master setup, there is the root. There's a root face site. Come on, I have to make a root face site again. Wow. Okay. Well, technically, I don't need to make a root face site, but there's the root face site that uses the root manager. So this root face site you can see, and it uses the root manager class, and this root manager has one function, which is authorize. I want to copy that, and then go and create PHP ZAS make class. I mean, where did I make this root manager? It's in middleware. Yeah. Root manager. And root manager has one method. You remember this thing, the same thing, but then this one is different because it's not the same as that one. So this particular response has code blah blah blah. So that's going to make it different. Yeah. We'll say response that one. Our code is 403. You are not authorized. Right? Then we want to send a JSON data. Error, response constant error in you are not authorized, my friend. You are not authorized. Yep, just like that. And then finally, root directory again, as I said, is from the global functions, so we're good. And then let's do the last thing, just to keep things as clean as we can. Let's make a face out for this thing. Let's make a face out for it. Yeah. So say PHP ZAS make class support FACADES root, and the parent is support. See, this is the thing I didn't want to be doing, so I just made a command for it. Abstract root, no, not abstract root, abstract yes, face add. And yes, we have it. Now we have it, isn't it? So we will be returning. What is our accessor? Root. Manage the class. See, that's simple, isn't it? Very much simple. Then we can decide to just, just for the sake of autocomplete, let's add one function here, which is authorize, and it returns nothing. I mean, it just returns for add method static authorize. How does it return? Void, like that. Good. Now we have our that. We can just go to this gentleman here. After we have booted the global functions, finally, after all of the work, man, it's time. Then we do root authorization. Then close that. There you go. And we'll do root. This is our face side. Root authorize. That's all. So if I do come back here, right? Let's go back to our request place. If I send this thing, there's a problem. Key environment is not found. Yeah, I know that. Let's go to our config. What do we have in our config? We have stage instead of environment. So we now need to go back to our root manager. In the root manager, I put environment. Sorry, I forgot to change that. I shouldn't be using environment. I should be using stage. Yeah. Great. Now if I run this, it should run cleanly. You see, it's running cleanly, right? Let me test the other ones. Let's look at get, right? No, not get. Up here, let's put get here. Get doesn't find anything because that one is deleted. So let's do 3. Get 3, right? Get 3 returns a correct book. Now let me show you the power of this thing. Let's say get is no longer authorized, so we remove rooted from here. You don't even need to remove rooted. As soon as you remove get from that root array, it will not be authorized. But let's remove it. Let's remove rooted from here and then ask PHP ZAS. Let's ask ZAS to rebuild the root. ZAS create roots. Yes, it has made the root array. Now come back here and try to access this thing. What do you see? Forbidden. You cannot access it. You see? Simple. So that's it. That's it for today. Now I've shown you how to use ZAS. It has been a very long, video. It has been like 3 hours. I'm just sitting here teaching you how ZAS is actually used. There are other commands like let me just show you them again before we go, right? So we're going to make a background file, CLS. I'm going to say PHP ZAS make actor. It's going to be just test, and we are making this in a background file, test in back, which is that back, then we say -p -p anything. Let's just I don't want to do anything. Let me just, it doesn't have any parent, it's just in the root. So down in the background you can see that there's a new folder called test. There it is. So then let's just try to CLI log something. So we're going to get 2 arguments from here. We're going to say our first argument is name, which is equal to arg argument at, it says 0 or 1, I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out. Arc, no, it's gonna be 0 is 1, argument at 1. Then arc, no, let's use h. Hey, arc v, no, c is for count, v is for value. Arc v2. Then we're gonna say CLI log hello name, you are 8 years old. Just to keep things safe, we put I don't want people telling me, hey, you don't know. Then we'll say PHP ZAS, right? Run. So PHP ZAS run which file? We will just want test.php. What is the argument? Dash dash arg. We know the first name is Levi, and I'm 20. Oh my friend. Undefined variable argv. Ooh. Let me call you back, bro. Yeah. Eh? Okay. Let me call you back. Okay. Undefined variable arg. Oh, arg argv. So we can say, run it again. There you go. Hello, Levi. You are 22 years old. So you see, this is the background. Now, background only should allow things from the command line, right? Or they only allow arguments from the command line. So that is it for background actors. You can make a supporter if you want. PHP ZAS make supporter. So let's say you want to make a supporter called maybe we didn't actually make a configuration. We'll do that. PHP ZAS make supporter. Let's make a config first. Supporters are easy. You can just test out that one. Config. We're gonna say jokes. That's it. So we have made the jokes config. So now that is there, let's go find it. It's in the config folder, in the supporter. So there is this function classes, then there will be config somewhere. I'm looking for that thing. There it is. Great. So there is jokes.config. So you can see this is how to access jokes config key 1 key 2. Will be there just now, sir. So we can say joke 1 laugh because you are not here. Then we have another, let's just say joke 2 running down the road. So then to access these jokes, you can come back to test. Let's say hello Levi, you are this years old. CLI log, these are your jokes. Want to get the first joke, which is let's just for config. What do we want? We want jokes. Config jokes. Which one do we want? We want the first key, which is joke 1. Then we have dot end config jokes joke 2, like that. So if we run it, oh no, come on, wait, this thing has overwritten. It has overwritten. So I didn't put checks here, by the way. Jokes. So if you are not careful, we make a config, it will overwrite. Hello there. I cannot write that again. Jokes 2. How are you? And then we can come back and run that. Wait. Oh, it's actually joke 1. It does not have a key name joke 1. Okay, you can see CLS. So hello Levi, these are your jokes. Hello there, and how are you? So that is it for So we are able to read the configs. This is how you read it. You can remember configs, the name of the config, then joke 1, joke 2, blah blah blah. So with that said, the last thing, PHP ZAS make supporter. We're just gonna call it docs. Maybe that's what we want to save our docs readme.md. Okay, CLS. I know the reason. PHP ZAS. We need to make the directory first. Supporter docs -d. Oh, I think yeah -d. There you go. Then finally we can do make readme.md, which whose parent is docs. Now we're good. So if I go here to docs, there we are, readme.md. It has .php. Woo. Now that again is your problem to fix. If you want to make your files that don't have .php, make sure you remove the PHP extension. Great. With that said, I have taken you through everything that I could take you through today, and again, it was a pleasure developing ZAS, and I know it looks a little bit hard at this point, but it's not. You can see I just built a simple book API. However, I was just following some best practices to make it easier. But with that said, thank you for watching, and I will see you again.